Hello everybody, welcome to another video. It is the results of yesterday's cycling trip that I'm going to talk about today, or rather how that took place. So during the stream on Thursday, I was talking about how we were going to have this event where everybody was going to show up and we're going to go ride a bike for about 22 miles or roughly 35 kilometers. And we were going to do so on tandem bikes, like bikes made for two. And I've never rode one of those before, and I don't think I will after this either. So the day started off well enough. I found a nice parking spot nearby, even though they had initially said that we should park at this place where there didn't appear to be any parking space at all. And turned out that the actual parking space was like another 5 minutes walk down the road. So I parked it like right next to the place because I saw on Google Maps or Google Street View that you can actually do that because there's like a terrace parking spot. There's only like 20 or 30 spots there. Maybe 20. It actually wasn't 30, I don't think. There weren't that many cars. But I managed to get my car in one of those spots where I thought, oh, that's great. I'll go check out that road to see if there's like actually something there. Maybe Google Street View is behind or something. But nope, when I showed up there, it looked exactly the same. And then I saw signs for parking for the place that we were going, for the fort that we were going. And so I thought, oh, why don't I just go check out those signs, or at least see where they lead, where we were supposed to be parking. Of course, that's also the location where everybody else was parking. I think I'm the only one who parked it somewhere else. By the time I got there, everybody else is already gathered. Well, almost all of them. There are a couple of cars that still arrived when I arrived myself on foot. And of course we gathered there and everybody had their flowers on them because everybody had to bring one big flower with a note attached to it. And of course I had my crocheted one, which people thought was a good idea, but you know, it was of course a bit smaller than most of the flowers that the other people brought, but it's going to last longer, so that's a good thing. Anyway, so that was appreciated, and then we walked to the place itself, sat down for a cup of coffee and a slice of pie. And then it was time to go and actually ride the tandem bikes. Now, initially they had paired us up just by like drawing little notes with the number of the bike on it. And the person that I was paired up with is somebody who is like half my weight and also very fanatical in most of the things that they do. And so they were like, oh, you just need to hop on and immediately start pedaling. And I'm like, oh, wait, hang on, because I'm in the back here, and the handlebar was a little bit like this, a little bit slightly bent, so I was also like not able to keep my balance very well because I already have some balance issues of my own. So sometimes I'll just be walking there and the dog will stop, and then I have to stop in order to see what she's doing, and then I just kind of lose my balance for a second or something. So I'm already not very good with balance. So I'm sitting there on this, or trying to sit there, actually I couldn't sit, on this thing that's like got these handlebars that are off center, and she's super fanatically trying to pedal, but I haven't even got my feet on the pedals yet, so it's like I'm sitting there wobbling like crazy, and so eventually I have to get off because it's like we're about to fall off. And so we tried that like 4 times, and she got frustrated, and I got frustrated, and then somebody who is used to riding tandem bikes, who was gonna actually go along with us on her own single bike because she needed to leave halfway through the event, she was like, oh, why don't I show you how it's done? So she went on the bike on the back with this other person, and they rode off and were perfectly good together because of course she was able to demonstrate how it was actually done to them. And so they like went riding off at a distance. I'm just like waiting there next to her bike, like, okay, I guess they'll turn around somewhere. But when they reached the corner about, well, I want to say 150 feet or something, they were just like calling back like, oh, just take my bike, use that one. I was like, okay, fine, I'll use the single bike. I was actually kind of happy about that because it didn't look like it was going to work. So I followed them, all of them, on my single bike then, and then we had lunch. And fortunately, there was no singing on the bikes. At least I didn't hear anything. Of course, if you're like ahead of somebody or they're far behind you, you kind of hear something every once in a while, some talking, but it wasn't like we were always together in a big group, because some people are faster than others. So some people are way ahead, and then there are people like way behind you. But I didn't hear any singing. But during the lunch, like after we had finished eating, somebody had actually made a song for her that was only like a couple of verses, so it wasn't a huge song. But still, she wrote a song for the person who was leaving, and that was very nice. So she sang that, but it wasn't like we were all asked to sing, fortunately. That part didn't quite work out for them. Happy enough for that. Anyway, so during lunch also, the person that I was supposed to be riding on a bike with didn't want to try it with me anymore because I was like told like, oh, why don't I go on like the front part because I was sitting in the back part. And if you're on like a bicycle made for two, then only the person on the front part, I guess for you guys it would be over here. Once the bike is flipped. Either way, so this person has the steering and it has the hand brakes and the gear switches, so they have all the control and they can determine where we go. And then the person in the back only really has something to hold on to, but of course it can't steer, so we're really just holding on to something as you're pedaling, but you have no further control, and they don't really determine too much. So they told me, you know what, if you sit in the front seat, then you'll probably be able to do it a lot better because then you'll have some more control and it makes a big difference. So I was like saying to her like, oh, why don't I sit in the front seat then and we can try it again? And she's like, I don't know about that. So she didn't really want to try it with me anymore. So she actively started calling around the lunch table if anybody wanted to cycle with me, which is always kind of embarrassing because it's kind of like you're the least desirable person in the group that they don't want to hang out with, but maybe somebody is charitable enough to give it a try, you know, that type of vibe. So somebody else is like, okay, I'll ride with her because I'm pretty sure it's going to work out. And this person was a lot more positive in their approach. They have a bit more of a can-do attitude in the sense that we'll work it out together, that type of thing, not you'll do what I do and then it'll work out, which was the other person's attitude. So we went and tried a different bike as well, and that actually worked a lot better. I was at the front this time. There was a little bit of struggle, of course, every time we had to stop and then restart, but usually we managed to get it in the first try. So we ended up riding back together and with this other person then. And the other person that I was with initially saw how effortless it was now going with this other person. They were like surprised and like, oh, what's going on now? How come you can do it now? And stuff like that. Almost kind of like, what's wrong with me type of jealous. So I don't know what's wrong with them anyway. But so it worked out, and I don't know, I guess it says something about teamwork or something. Like I'm definitely a person who wants to seek a balance first when there's like a new team being formed, and I want to kind of like get everything sorted out first and then start running, I guess. But she's like, okay, I have an idea, let's go. And so that those two didn't really combine, as well as the fact that she's a lot lighter than me, I'm a lot heavier than her. So if I start to wobble, that really has a big effect on the bike. So that didn't work out too well. And with the other person, she was not quite, she was about the same weight as her, actually. They were about the same weight. But of course, since I'm on front and basically dictating what we do, I have like the weight and everything and the control of the bike. It made a lot more sense because that means that the person in the back doesn't really have to wobble too much, if you know what I mean, because I'm pulling the bike and my weight and my balance can keep it upright for the most part. And all she really needs to do is stay on the saddle and keep pedaling. So that worked out fine, and at the end of that we just sat in the sun back at the fort and just had some beer and wine and that type of drinks with some snacks. They had a lot of snacks on the table, which I fortunately didn't eat a whole lot of. And of course there were a couple of gifts that they wanted to give to the person who was leaving, and some speeches were being held as well. And then after about 2 hours we decided to call it quits and everybody went their separate ways again. So as far as the bike trip went, it turned out to be pretty good weather. It started off kind of gloomy and there was a little bit of cloud cover and a little bit of rain, or like in the morning, but as soon as we started cycling, actually the clouds disappeared and it turned into a really pretty blue sky day with lots of sunshine, a lot of wind, but still that's not really a big deal because of course if you're cycling and you're working hard, you get very warm anyway, so a little bit of wind can cool you down, which is always good. And the route that we took was not the route that we had been given on a little map, because of course those tandem bikes were owned by like the organization that was operating from that fort, like this entertainment organization, and they had like a whole chart with different types of routes and different colored lines and stuff like that. But I think we went like whole crisscross all over the map because we were trying to arrive at our lunch destination on time, but also not have a super short trip beforehand. So I think we maybe went like 12 to 15 miles before lunch and then another 10 after. And so we probably did a little bit more than 22. I'm not really sure because the way over I was actually doing pretty well, and the way back I was well enough as well. But the steering wheel of the bar was a lot wider than a usual bike. Like normally you have it like a bit more like this, but with the other one, the tandem bikes, it's like you're feeling like you're over here with your arms, even though it's like probably more like this, which was very uncomfortable. And due to the weather not being too bad, I decided to keep my vest off. I have brought a vest in a backpack, and I wanted to not put it on for as long as I could because it was still chilly in the morning. But I thought, yeah, if I put it on now and later the sun starts to shine, then I have to take it off again. And so I didn't really feel like doing that because I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to stop too much along the way. But as it turned out, we didn't need it. And as a matter of fact, because I was riding the single bike that had a couple of like bags on the back, kind of like saddlebags for a bicycle, people would come up to the bike and start put their stuff in the bags in between the times that we had to stop to wait and look for directions because they were starting to get like very warm. And unfortunately, I didn't have that issue. And today, actually, I don't really have too much of an issue with like muscle pains or stiffness or anything like that. I do notice sometimes when I'm like getting up that the hips are definitely a little bit sore because of course we did a lot of paddling and stuff like that, and there were a lot of areas that were like uphill, and that can be very tiring after a while. Particularly if you're trying to keep pace with the person on the bike with you, which is not your usual pace, which is also one of the reasons why I think we should have just had separate bikes for everybody. But okay, so it worked out alright, and like I said, I'm not super stiff this morning, and I am a little bit sunburnt looking because I see in the camera that I'm very red looking. We spent a lot of time in the sun, so that would check out. So we had a good goodbye party for that person who was leaving, and people were already talking about how we should have more parties because they really enjoyed the get-together, the casual stuff, and maybe have a barbecue, etc. So maybe we'll do something else sometime later in the year. We'll have to wait and see. In any case, that is my Saturday vlog for today. Hope you guys are having a nice weekend. Hope to see you on Tuesday. Where we'll do some more Stardew Valley, and of course on Friday we'll be back with Don't Starve Together. Hope to see you then. Make sure to stay healthy, happy, and safe, and bye-bye for now.